Hey family, thank you so much for joining me. So I'm wanting to bring you a video. It is the Thanksgiving Eve, I guess you might want to call it. Um, Wanted to talk with you for a little bit about the divine. Um, See if I can do better than it's better. Um, the divine feminine energy, and more specifically, the divine feminine, what they call the dark energy, and the divine feminine light energy. So, um, I put air quotes up there because I think those are just so called energies. And I think it's more, if you just bear with me in this, I know I might be going on a little rant, because recently I heard about the dark divine feminine and the light divine feminine energies. Um, and I would say a lot of people have fun with those labels, and they feel like maybe they're doing something naughty or being bad by saying it's the dark feminine energy and then it's the light feminine energy. And I think it sets us back when we do things like that, to say this is the dark feminine energy, the one that's, assertive and stands up for herself, versus the light feminine energy, which, some people would consider the good girl, or the one that always says yes, or the one that is always trying to please other people. I think it's more the true feminine energy, which they would call the dark energy, and then the false feminine energy, which they would call the light energy. And I think using those terms um, is wrong. But I know, again, like I said, people have fun with those terms, and they think, they're a bad girl if they get into the so called dark energy, or they think, well, they're a good girl if they get into the so called light energy. So let me just break it down the way that I think about. I think about, maybe I should address the false energy first, the light energy that some people talk about. I think the light energy is the energy that's lying to people. And so I think that that if anything, that should be considered dark, that you're being fake, that you're not being real, that you're not expressing your true feelings, your desires, your wants, your needs. You're just sort of being submissive and I think neglecting yourself and serving others' needs, because um, I'm not sure if there's a fear, possibly there is, that someone won't like you or they won't accept you or whatever it is. And I know people have a lot of history and a lot of things that have happened to them. A lot of very traumatic things have happened to a lot of people that lead them to that um, behavior, or lead them on that path to the false feminine energy. Um, but it ends up being that it's similar to the, I would say, same as the light, so-called light masculine energy. Then a guy who's pretending to be a good guy, he's not a good guy. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing, but people want to pretend, he's a nice guy and he's so good, and I don't understand why, he's not married and someone didn't just snatch him up. Be real. Be real with your intentions. Be real with it. And I think you would get a lot further if you actually were honest. So for example, let me give you an example. So um I know this guy, and you know, he he was interested in me. And my experience with him, dating him briefly, it was that um he was trying to, please me, and and trying to say things that he thought I wanted to hear. And in the end, I ended up breaking it off with him. And he said, you know, well, if so I asked him, I said, why would you always say yes? Why would you always agree with me? Why wouldn't you argue with me if I was wrong? He said, basically, he wanted to sleep with me. And I said, you would he would have gotten further with me. The relationship might have lasted longer and all that stuff if you would have just been honest about your thoughts, your desires, your fears, your frustrations, whatever. You would have gotten further. And now I would have messed around with him because I really, in the end, was not interested in him. But the thing is, what's important is just you need to be honest and you'll get a lot further. A lot of men will tell you that they've gotten a lot further, desires about the things that they want. I think from me, don't get me wrong, that's not the only thing that's required, but I have a lot more respect for someone who's just straight up telling me, this is what I want. Take it or leave it. Okay. Now I know how to deal with you. Now I know where I stand. Now I know, how to serve the truth with you and tell you I could help you or I cannot help you, but at least I know the truth. But for someone that in itself to deceive someone, try to deceive someone into believing that you're a good person, that you have their best interest at heart and all that stuff when all you want is, a good time or you just want to sleep with them, just tell the person the truth, because they may, end up falling for you. And then later on down the line, what you're saying is, oh, I just want to sleep with you in the first place. Well, tell a person, you know, and if it doesn't work out, it's possible for you to find someone who is in alignment with your desires. Their desires may be the same as yours. Just if you'll just be honest, I think you can get to the goal faster. Um, but so getting back to the light feminine energy, it is a deceptive energy. It is an energy that wants to portray this false image of feminine energy. That's they're a good girl. They always do, what you want them to do. They're always nice. They're always sweet. They're always polite. And it might be for a lot of those feminines that they get sick a lot of the time. They might come down with things because you're as they say, your body keeps the score, and you're holding things in your body that eventually those things come out, the symptoms come out in this 3D. It starts on the spiritual um plane and ends up trickling down to this physical reality. And then this is where people start to see a lot of illnesses and things like that, in my experience and according to some research, because they're not telling the truth and the lies are catching up to them. Now there's a lot of illnesses that some people have said has come from being deceptive, and some pretty pretty terrible things from what people have said. What I can say is that in my experience, I've seen a lot of people come down with things because they're not telling the truth, because they're trying to be deceptive with other people. So while the so-called light feminine energy is portrayed as this, oh, they're so polite and they're so sweet. To me, that is the false feminine. Again, I repeat, that's the false feminine. The feminine that you're not going to get most people in general, and women in particular, that always agree with what you say, that always think that you're whatever, always think that you're right, always think, always agree with you, always think, that you're the best of the best and this and that. No, in order to be the best version of you, I think you need someone to tell you sometimes that you're wrong, to give you constructive criticism, to tell you the things that you can improve about yourself. And they need to love you. I say this often. They need to love you more than they love being with you. For me, that's my um, thing. Love love me more than you love being with me. And when you love me more than you love being with me, that means you're going to tell me the truth. You're going to argue with me sometimes. You're going to disagree with me sometimes. You're going to correct me and tell me if I'm wrong. You might check me, you might these might be things that you do, but that's you walking in love with me. And this is something that it looks to me like, if we're talking about the light feminine energy, always agreeing or always saying, they're you're right, or always um saying, no, 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 I can, what I want can wait. It's deception. And it leads to later on maybe a person being passive aggressive or outright aggressive because they've waited for such a long time. They've held it in for so long. It's like a tea kettle or a pot. It boils over and screams at you because it wasn't letting off steam little by little. So I would say one thing that's important to consider for the so-called light feminine energy, it's going to come back to bite you if you aren't honest about what you think or how you feel, or if you disagree with someone or whatever. I don't think that there's anything wrong with having the full experience and being a human being, and sometimes disagreeing. Now, of course, like I said, people have experienced a lot of trauma and things like that, a lot of things that have happened, they've been rejected or what have you, to get them to the point where they feel like they just have to appear as though they're always agreeing, they're always goody two shoes or whatever. And I think that image can feel like a prison for some people, and a lot of people don't know how to break out of it. And I think that's why for a lot of people, they might end up moving to a completely different town where they don't know anyone, no one knows them, they don't have to put on this front like there's someone. But I would say an even bigger challenge and an even bigger victory for you would be for you to stay in the same town. And I know it can be a challenge, so it might be something that you start out in a different town and then you end up coming back home to stand up. And sometimes people's families can be so oppressive, um and it might be really difficult. So that might not be a place that you want to stay, even if you do come back home and stand up to the people who are trying to keep you imprisoned in this personality where you feel like you always have to be agreeable. You always have to be um, kind of putting yourself down and putting others first and caring for others' needs and not your own. So I would say get into an environment where this is going to be encouraged. Um, I just saw 333 on the clock. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but hopefully it means something good. But um, it was actually 1333, but I'm looking at the threes. But um, what I was thinking about was with the so-called dark feminine energy. I think even though a lot of people would say, well, this is terrible, this is awful, how could you actually be honest, or how could you express? No, a lot of people I think are actually magnetized to you, drawn to you when you're able to be honest, you're able to stand in your power, you're able to say what you want and what you don't want, what you like and what you don't like, what you can do and what you cannot do. You're able to express your desires. You're able to be disagreeable. You're able to ask for, compensation. If you work for someone, you're able to, do a lot of different things. And if a situation is not serving you or the person that you're in it with, you're able to walk away and feel like justified because you are, you know. And so I think this is why this is the true feminine energy. And because it is the one that's honest, because it is the one that's open, because it's the one that's admitting that sh- she is a human, has a full experience, and is not afraid to stand up for herself, not afraid to talk about what's right and what's not right according to her, and not afraid to walk away if she has to walk away. So I think that's the true feminine energy. And I think those feminine energies, those true feminine energies, probably have a lot less stress, a lot less worry, a lot less anxiety, a lot less physical illnesses, a lot less problems in their relationship because they can be honest and forthcoming. And eventually, I think they terminate the relationships that are not serving them, or they know that they can't be a good fit for someone in a friendship or a relationship. They end up leaving those situations, or it's a mutual separation, and they're better for it, and everyone is better for it. So I would say, instead of using these terms, the dark, so-called dark, feminine energy, I think we need to call it the true feminine energy, and we need to call a spade, and call the so-called light feminine energy the false feminine energy, because that's exactly what it is. I think that people will see a lot more, like I said, a lot more health, better health, less illness, less stress, less worry, and all those things in their lives, less issues with, a whole bunch of different things they don't necessarily need to deal with, if they can be honest, be the true feminine energy instead of calling it the dark feminine energy. And I think that's a negative connotation anyway. And while people might be thinking what's a compliment, it feels like another way of steering some people away from the truth by calling it dark, and saying dark is equated with bad in the first place. That's a whole nother conversation that we could get into. Um, but it depends, like, is it dark like black or dark like white? Is it light like black or light like white? That's a whole nother conversation that we could get into. But people should be careful how they're using these terms, and just be mindful. Try to get some understanding about the things that you're saying before you're saying them, because they have an impact. The narrative has a huge impact on people's behaviors, how they feel, what they think. And don't get me wrong, we cannot control other people's um, feelings and any of that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it impacts it. So um, I know I don't want this video to be too long, but I just wanted to come on and talk about that, the feminine energy, a little bit, and talk about, maybe it's better to use the terms false and true instead of using so-called dark and so-called light, because I think, if anything, those terms should be flipped, and the light feminine energy should be the one that tells the truth, and the dark feminine energy, if we're using these terms a certain way, should be the one that's deceptive. All right. But I know there's a lot to unpack for one day. And maybe I'll bring to you more videos about this, because I think it's a topic that deserves some attention, and one that maybe it's getting more attention lately. But I think it could use more. All right, family, thanks so much for joining me. If you celebrate, I hope you enjoy the holidays, and trying to bring you another video soon about topics like this. Looking forward to hearing your stories about this, the feminine energy, whether it's the true or the false feminine energy, your experience with it, your experience, if people have been trying to stop you from saying the things that you wanted to say, or they're encouraging you more and more, gravitating toward you because you are saying those things, you are being bold, you are being brazen, you are standing up and saying, wait a minute, I need to assert myself and I need to just tell you the truth about who I am, what I think, how I feel, what I want, what I desire, and all that. So I'm looking forward to hearing your experiences, and also hopefully you'll have some great experiences to share about law of attraction and manifesting too. All right. Thanks so much for joining me. Looking forward to talking to you soon. Happy holidays again. As always, happy lightning fast manifesting. And I will see y'all soon. All right. Love y'all. Bye.